Hi everybody, I'm Jim Deerdorf and this is Detroit DIY. I've put together a mini-series on precast concrete countertops. We're going through the measuring of the countertop, the building of the form, sealing of the form, pouring of the countertop, the wire reinforcement and bars that go in the countertop. And we'll also be doing the removal and the installation of the countertop, the new sink, faucet, garbage disposal, dishwasher, how we're going to mount the dishwasher to the concrete countertop. This will be an in-depth mini-series and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much. Recently my wife told me that she wanted concrete countertops and I wasn't sure how to do this. So I went to YouTube and I researched and finally I found enough information to attempt to make my own countertops. It was a fail. So through more research, I finally got together and made a successful countertop. So what I wanted to share with you, and the whole reason of this channel, is to give you the details, how to do this, and how to do it without spending thousands of dollars. So I'd like to show you these countertops. So this is the first one, and this is the one that I worked with the first time. It was the small one and the easiest one. And here is the second one. So what we're going to do is, before I can build a form, I have to measure this countertop here. And that's what we're going to be working on. And then we are going to build the form. So I've already marked some stuff out. I've already found the center of my sink and I've already made some measurements. So I just want to go over this with you a little bit and let you know what's going on. So I discovered that my wall right here is not very square. So I had to get most of my measurements from the back of the countertop. Very important for you to check the squareness so that you know where your countertop's going to stop. So when I'm done, I'm going to have a small gap here, but when we do our tile, it will cover that gap up. So just take the time, get your square out, and check everything out. So as you can see, there is a gap right here that needs to be dealt with or worked around. So that's what we're going to do. So the next thing that I had to figure out is where my sink was positioned in my countertop, because my concrete countertop I am going to use a drop-in sink. So with the drop-in sink, I do not have to worry about having a super fine or nice edge on the inside of the countertop as I would with an undermount. And I also need to be cautious that I put the sink hole in the correct place so that it's not off center from my cabinet that's below. So what I did was I used my laser. I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not. And I just set it up where it would shine on the front of my cabinet. Just like so, on the seam, and then up the wall. So then I could locate everything and make all my measurements the way that I needed to. Now these are the details that a lot of the videos don't seem to give you, that I wanted to make sure were in this video so that you could understand. I also had to reinforce the end of the cabinet because apparently the dishwasher was not installed at the same time that the countertops were, so I wound up with a butcher block type extension on my countertop. The countertop that I'm going to make is going to be a precast countertop, and our form will be made from melamine. We are going to do it just like those with the square edges, dark gray with the white in it, and I will show you how to do this by purchasing minimal things online, but you will have to get a few. Alright, we're out in the workshop now and we're going to build the form with the measurements that we took from in the house, but first I want to go over a couple things with you. You'll watch plenty of videos on YouTube where they tell you that you can vibrate the forms with a Sawzall or tap it with a hammer to get your air bubbles out. In some cases it's successful and some it isn't. I purchased this table vibrator on Amazon and the controller for it for under 50 bucks. Good investment. I will take this and screw it underneath my workbench and it'll shake everything and get all the air bubbles out while I'm working. So, a very good investment for what it is. Now we've got all our measurements, and what I had to do was splice two pieces together. As you can see, I've already built the base of the countertop, and I joined it together right here with a Craig jig, and what we're going to do is we're going to put this seam in the area of the sink so that very little bit of it is exposed, so it'll leave a little bit of line in the finished countertop, but it won't be much. So our melamine, I've already cut the strips. You will need a circular saw, you will need a table saw, and you will need a drill and that's about it. That's all you need, a caulk gun and some caulk, and you can get this done. So what we're going to do now is we're going to finish drilling the holes in the other two pieces, and I will show you how we do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a bit to recess it so that our screw head sits down in it. Now a lot of these you'll see where they take these and they screw them right onto the sides of the forms. The reason I don't do that is because I don't have a big shop and I don't have the type of table saw that they have where I can lay the full sheet of melamine and cut it square. So I cut the melamine, the flat part of my form with my circular saw to the rough dimensions, and then I put these on top. Works just the same, saves a lot of effort. Not very exciting, is it? But it's the details. You want to make sure that the screw can set down in the wood so that when it's tight and when you're so that when the screw is tight and you are screeding the concrete, your screed board does not get hung up on the screw head. So now what I'm doing is I'm clearancing these holes so that my screw does not grip into this as I'm screwing it on. If my screw grips into this, it will lift it up off the base of the form, and I'll have to back the screw out and run it in multiple times to get it tight. If I clearance it so that the screw fits through this hole, then it won't do that. now I'm going to use some of these as spacers, so once I get one side on, I can get the other side on. So the other thing to remember is when you're building this and you're going off your measurements, this is going to be your finished countertop, the finished side. So you have to construct the countertop with the thought process in mind that you are constructing it upside down. So everything will be the opposite of what your measurements are. So meaning I took all my measurements from this wall. So basically what I'm going to do is turn this over. Everything will be the opposite, and when you flip it over and you're done, your sink, everything will be in the correct place. So the next thing we're going to do before we start attaching any of the side forms is we are going to seal this seam. I don't know how well you can see that, so we're going to get right here. So this seam is what we need to seal. So we're going to give it a little wipe down. We're going to put a little bit of tape on it. And the reason we're going to use tape on this is just to control the caulk a little bit better. There is a little bit of chip out here. When you're cutting the melamine, chip out can be an issue. What you want to do is set your saw blade so that it's barely in the surface of the material. And you cut it like that. If you keep the nerf of the blade in the material, you will not get any or very little chip out. The problem here is I was not able to get this in my table saw, so I had to attempt to do this with my circular saw, and it did not turn out quite as nice as I had hoped, but it's going to be okay. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to caulk this seam with black caulk so that you can have a better visualization of what's going on. And this will seal it from any of the concrete leaking through. Took it a little while. Alright, make sure you put your cap back on so that you can use it again. Now what we'll do is prevent this from getting all over you and stuck on your fingers. Use a little Windex, give you a little spray on a finger, and smooth it out. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it back where it's nice and thin. Something like that. Now remember, my sink is going to be centered here. Maybe not centered, but placed here, so that I will have a minimum amount of this showing. So now I may come through here and just wipe this a little bit better, especially where my countertop's going to be sitting. Alright, done deal. Now what we're going to do is we are going to install our first piece of form right here on this edge. So this edge of the board right here I know is square. This is the original cut from the factory. I like to try and preserve those edges to work off of in the very beginning. Then once I have this nice and straight, nothing else matters. So what we're going to do is clamp this in place where it's flush with this outside edge. Just like so. What I'm using is a 2-inch screw. My forms are cut at 1.5 inches. So with the 2-inch screw, it will not stick completely through the bottom side, the other side of the melamine. The nice thing is about the melamine is you can clean it up and reuse it. So you could use this melamine 3 or 4 times as a form, and you won't have to throw it out. Just scrape a little silicone off. So when we run these screws in, we want to make sure that we don't over tighten them. If we over tighten them, we'll split the side of this. About all there is. Set them down in there so that your screed doesn't catch on them. Oops. And it moved. I would put in an edit here, but I think I'm not. Apparently I did not have it clamped tight enough and it moved on me. So if that happens to you, you cannot reuse these holes because the screw will just keep trying to find the hole that you had just put in. So we have to drill 3 new holes. Then we have to make sure that it's clamped nice and tight. So sometimes those things happen, and that's the details I was talking about in the beginning to work around. Now I'm just going to real quick mark these other holes so that I do not try to put a screw back in them and have it push my form off center. Okay, let's try this again. So what I've done is I've pushed my clamp in a little bit further than I did the first time and tightened it a little bit tighter. And it did not move. Alright, now we're just going to continue down. And flush it to the edge. A couple, 2-3 screws at a time. So if you are thinking about or going to make your own countertops, the best thing to keep in mind is to start small. This is a big countertop. It's going to weigh probably 240 pounds. It's going to be a little tough to carry. It's going to be a 2-guy carry, maybe 3. And a little bit weak in the middle where the sink's going to be, so I'll have to figure some things out. I've got a good idea how we're going to move it into the house from here, but if you're going to try it for the first time, start small. Just buy a bag of the cement and mix it up and start real small and make sure you can get your air bubbles out and you get a satisfactory job before you move on to a bigger project. I'd like to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed yourself, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. And I'd like to give a special thanks to Tony Iconelli and Brett Wimmer for helping to make all of these projects happen. And stay tuned, we have a lot of exciting things coming. We're going to be getting into all sorts of projects. Thanks for watching.